Hello everyone, welcome back to SFDC Panther. My name is Amit Singh, and in this video we will talk about what are invocable method in Salesforce, how to use these invocable method inside our Salesforce flows, and we will also see the various concepts and we will see the various ways use these invocable method in our screen flow, and the same methods can be used in our auto launched as well as our record triggered flow. So before we go ahead, please do like, share, subscribe the channel and also press the bell icon so that you don't miss any update from us. Before we actually go ahead and start implementing the invocable method, we will talk about a few things about what invocable methods are. So invocable methods are the methods which we can create inside any Apex class, and that can be used to extend the flow functionality. And with the help of these invocable methods, flow are becoming more and more powerful. And you can also say that if you want to replace your Apex trigger with the flow and with your invocable method, you can do that. But again, that is not the official statement by Salesforce. This is my observation that I have found is if you are using flow with invocable Apex, that can be equivalent to your Apex trigger as well as their handler classes. And we have to use invocable method annotation on the top of any Apex method to make sure that this is an invocable method. So this is just a very simple information about our invocable method. Now let's quickly see what is the example of our invocable method, how to actually develop that method. So if you see here, this is our class where we've got the class name is account insertion, okay? And this is the invocable method annotation that we were talking about. So invocable method is going to be our annotation, and then these are the modifiers like label, description, category. Okay, there are few couple of more identifiers we will talk about in the next screen. The label is the one that you will see in your flow builder, in your flow whenever you will search for your invocable apex. Description is again the one that you will see where how your, like, even the same thing inside your flow builder we will see. And then category is where your invocable action will appear. You say that accounts, it will appear under account. If you say orders, it will appear under it will appear orders. That is the category basically in for your flow builder itself. Okay, and this is the method. So you see here it is returning a list of IDs and taking a list of accounts and then inserting all those. Okay, so we will talk about how to take the input parameters and how to take send the output parameter to the flows. So first we will talk about what are the supported modifiers. We have already seen, like, there is a label we have already seen. Then there is a category, there is a description. Then there is one more identifier which we say that call out. If you want to make a call out from your invocable method, you need to make sure that this call out parameter is set to true. Okay, by default it is a false. So if you want to make a call out to the external system, make sure the call out is true. And then this configuration editor, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to provide anything, the value for this particular modifier, because this is reserved for our flow builder. Now let's talk about what are the various considerations, okay, for our invocable method. The first thing, that invocable must be static and public or global in nature. If you're creating an invocable method, you cannot make that private. The reason is uh, you wanted to refer in your flow builder, and that is why it says that it must be static, so that we don't need to instantiate the apex class, and its class must be the outer class. When we talk about outer class, that means you cannot have the data, or sorry, you cannot have this method inside any inner class. And then there can be only one method inside a class which is annotated as invocable method. You cannot have multiple methods. And the important thing is that other annotations, like if you are trying to use or enable, you are trying to use at the red future, that cannot be used here with the invocable method annotation. So these are the consideration, these are the implementation consideration that you can, while you are implementing, you need to keep in your mind. Then there are few consideration about input and output. These are also very important, and these points can be helpful while you are working, or you are taking an interview, or you are appearing an interview. So when we talk about input, right, a list of primitive data types or a list of primitive data types can be accepted as a parameter, and the generic object type is not supported. When we talk about generic object, there is an object itself which says that object, so you cannot use object as an input parameter. And then you can have a list of an S object type or list of S object type. So here it is, you say here if you have got a S object, so you can accept this list of S object, or you can accept list of S object. This is again the input. And then we have got a list of user defined data types. That can be your Apex class with the variable annotated as invocable variables. Those variables can be also accepted as a part of input or can be sent as a part of output. So basically this is for both. These considerations are for both input as well as output. So this is basically the simple thing, the information which is important about our invocable methods. Now let's quickly see how we can implement this, and we will talk about a couple of scenarios as well. First, we will create a class. Okay, for that what we will do is go to the developer console, click on file and then Apex class, and here you can say here I will say flow builder series. That is what we are working for. So this is the class that we have got, right? First thing that we need to do is we need to create a method which should be public static in nature. Okay, let's say that for now the return type is void. We will say that welcome message. This is a simple method which doesn't accept anything. It will just return of simple thing which will say that okay return, and we will say that let's say here we say that welcome to flow builder series. So this is what we are returning. Now as we are returning here, so what return type we will put here is, let's try to put a string. Okay, and then we will use invocable variable, okay, invocable method. And here what we have to use is we will say that okay it is going to be give us the label. So and the label is going to be, let's say that welcome message. Okay, then we will have description, so let's use description. And then we will have category, so let's say we are making a category as welcome. Okay, so why I'm making this, so that I can show you where this category is lying. And let's select problem statement, try to save this and see if we are able to save this. What we are getting is, we are getting the error. It says that unexpected token at the rate. Okay, and whatever we have got, I think these commas are not required. We need to remove those commas, because we just need to say okay label, a description and category. Now what we are saying is, it is saying that invocable method does not support a return type of string. The reason is, it will always support a return type of list. It can be your primitive data types, it can be your S objects, it can be your what we talked about is what we had basically Apex custom defined. Okay, those what we have. So now we need to return a string, so we have to say that okay return new list of a string, and then under that you have to say here whatever you have got. So whenever you are returning a list of something, right? So say that you are returning a list of a string, flow builder will accept a string. It will say that okay, it is returning a list of a string. It will always be an string. We will talk about more on the return type and on the input as well. For now, just say that okay, this is what we are returning, and it says that no such property called label. Okay, there is a typo mistake for the label, so we have to just modify that, and then we will see here our Apex class is completed. This is a very simple Apex class with the invocable method. Now what you have to do is just go to the flows from the setup and then click on new. We will have the screen flow. You can also use the other flows as well. So here in the flow what we will say is, it is going to be a screen flow. We will use auto layout, and then the very first thing that we will here have is action. All our invocable method will come under action. Now here if you talk about category, okay, if you say type, okay, we don't see type. Okay, let's say category. Here under category you found this welcome, right? This is the category that you have defined in your Apex class, and if you search here you got this welcome message. Okay, this is your label that you have got. If you select this, you have to provide the label, you have to provide the API name. I believe it will be auto populated, so you don't need to worry about that. Then click on done. So you have got this action. You have just called your Apex class. If you wanted to add a fault path, you can just add that by default. That means if there is any error, you can have a fault path over here. Then after that, you can have a screen element and you can say that, okay, display message, or you can say that apex message. Use a display text, whatever you are getting here. And then here what you need to display is, you need to say, you need to go there in the variable. You see here text from welcome message. The reason we are getting text, because it is returning a list of string. That means it is returning a single variable that we need. We have to, if you want to modify, or if you want to change the formats, you want to change the color, whatever you want, you can just go ahead and do that. And then if you want, give the margin from the top, go ahead and save this. You can just give it as a name, so I'll say that invocable apex, and then just go ahead and debug this. You can see here, welcome to the flow builder series. This is what we are getting from our welcome message, which is our apex. It is telling us that this is the apex and this is the class name. Okay, this is a simple thing that we have just done. Now let's say that you wanted to pass some parameter to this method from your flow. Say that you wanted to pass a name of the person. Okay, so you can say that, okay, list of a string, and we will say that names. Okay, we cannot say a string name, it will not accept. If you want, you can just give it a try. So that, yeah, we are just giving it a try. Say that a string a name, and a string is not supported, you see here. So you have to make this as a list of a string. So you have got this name. Now what you need to return is, you need to say here, okay, let's say that we are going to create one more message. Say that a string, and here message, we will say whatever the message we have. So let's copy this message over here. Okay, and here what we will say, we will say if, let's add this welcome, and we will say if the name, if this name list is not equal to null. Okay, we say that name is not equal to null, or let's quickly have a check over here. We'll say that if name is not equal to null and name dot size is greater than 0. So basically we will see if there is something, have that variable on the top over here. So this is what we have. So let's say that message equal to name dot get 0, as because there will be only one, and then here we don't need anything. What we say that welcome to flow builder series, by default this is going to be the message. Then if there is something on the name parameter that we are getting, if that is there, we will append that name. We'll say that welcome, whatever the name is there, and then to flow builder series. Okay, just go ahead and return this message over here. Okay, so we have just made a slight modification to our apex class. Okay, what we have to do is, we have to refresh this our flow builder so that we can get the updated code over there. Now here just double click on your action, or just select this and then click on edit element. You can see here, now it is saying that input variables, it is asking the input. If you say that, okay, let's say whatever I'm saying, let's say that I'm saying John over here. Okay, then if you want to store these, it says that, let the flow decide recommended. So this is the recommended one, the transaction control. But if you want, always start a new transaction or always continue in the current transaction, you can select whatever the transaction control you want. If you want to store the outcome in some sort of variables, you can also do that, but I always recommend to use the screen, use the action that you have. So we will just click on done, save it, and then we'll again debug it. You can say here, it is saying that welcome John to flow builder series. Now this is accepting our parameter as well. One more thing that is important here, as a part of parameter, you can have only one parameter. You cannot have multiple parameter. Let's say that you are saying another parameter, list of names, okay, list of string. You can say here only one parameter is supported on methods with invocable method. Okay, so what you have to do is, if you want multiple input, if you want multiple parameter as an input, how you can do that? For that, what you have to do is, you have to create an inner class. Let's say that I'm creating a public class, and say that input resource. Okay, now here what you have to do is, you have to create the variables. Say we want to take the name, we want to take the name, and we want to take the place. These are the three variables that we want. So what we can do is, we can use invocable variable this time. This is the invocation. You can say the label of your variable, then you can say either it is required or not. Okay, and then you can also say whatever the description of your variable is. And then what you have to do is, you have to create a variable. You say that public string name, Similarly, you have to do for the other variables as well. So you can say that it is going to be public integer, it could be age, and then it will be, let's say that it is a place. Okay, so here what we will say that name, here say that age, or you can say that your name, your age. So here whatever we have got your name, your age, and same thing we will use for our description as well. Now what we need is, we want the input of we want these three inputs. So what we will make sure is, we will make sure that this is basically our inputs. Now we have got this list of resource as an input. What we will do here is, this time we will say, okay, let's quickly see if our input is not equal to null and greater than 1. Okay, so here we will say inputs, and here say that input is not equal to null. Basically always check for null, not null, so that you don't get any error. And here what you have to do is, let's quickly say here we will create one variable, say that string message, it has nothing. Okay, now what we will do is, we will get that input resource, so we will say that input, and this time we will get here, we say that inputs dot get 0. Now we have got this input, right? What we will do is, we will say, okay, here in the message, so we will say that welcome, and then here what we will do is, we will say the name, whatever the name is, so we say that input dot name, and here we will say that your age is, and here we will say input dot age, and if we will say that you are from, and this message is going to be written by our apex class, sorry, our method. Now still we are getting some error. It says that missing closing quote character on string. So there was an extra quote after this input place that we don't need. Now we have prepared this dynamic message. Okay, what we will do is, again, in order to provide the input, just go ahead and refresh this page, edit this variable message. Okay, just click on that and then select edit element. You can see here, as we have made our variable required, that is why this is not asking us to include. Instead that you must need to provide the values to these three variables. Okay, so let's say that I'm putting it is 27, and your place, let's say that I'm saying that United States. Okay, click on done, save this, and then debug this. Because we are returning a single variable, we won't get any error, or we won't get any blank message. We see here it says that welcome John, your age is 27 and you are from United States. Okay, so if you want to accept the multiple parameters in your invocable method, you have to take the help from a inner class, or you can also say that a wrapper class with invocable variables. If you make sure these are not required, if you say these are not required, it will, the flow will not ask to give the information to these values itself. Now one last thing that we have is, what if we want to return the multiple parameters to the flows? Right here, for example, we are only returning list of strings. This is a single parameter. Now if you want to return multiple parameter, how we can do that? Let's quickly create one more resource. Okay, which will say that output resource, and then we will have the same parameters over here, and this time these will not be required. Okay, so we have got the output resource with the same variable names. Now what we will do is, we will here make sure that we have got a list of output resource. We will say that output to return, and here we are checking that, right? Under here what we will say that, we will say that okay, output, we are just instantiating our class, and then what we will say that output dot name, we will say that input dot name. So this is what we have prepared, right? We created the output, the instance of our output resource. We assigned all the variables that are needed. Okay, there is nothing complex that we are doing here is, and then what we need to do is, we need to make sure that our return type is this list of output resource, and then we have to add output resource, the output in our list, and then return this output resource. Now what we are doing is, we are returning multiple parameters. This time let's see what will happen. Even we are returning multiple parameters, but only single instance of our output resource, because the return type is list of output resource. It is not list of output. Okay, now let's see what will happen here. So here we have got this invocable apex. Okay, what we have to do is, we have to edit this, and this is okay, this is okay, we don't need to edit. We need to edit this message, the screen component, because we have to change this now. This is not going to be welcome message now. We will say okay, we are going to get output. You see here now what is it saying, that action output from welcome message. If you click here, now it says that there are three variables that your Apex class is returning to flow. So if you say that okay, we have got welcome message name, similarly if you say that you have got welcome message age, and you have got welcome message place, these are the three input variables now your Apex class is returning. If you go ahead, save this and debug this, you will see three different variables in your flow screen that you have just created. So this is about your returning and accepting the multiple parameters. You can see here you've got John 27 and United States. Now what if you wanted to send the list of data? That means if you wanted to pass the list of records from flow to your Apex class, how you can do that? And you wanted to send the list of data from Apex class to your flow, how you will do that? Okay, so for that what we will do is we will create one more class. Okay, what I have done here is I have created a class flow builder series account, then invocable method, label is return accounts, or you can say that fetch accounts. Okay, then description is say that this will return the list of all accounts. Okay, and then category is account. This time our action will appear under account category. Okay, now what we will return is we will return all the accounts. Okay, top 10 accounts. What you have to do is let's quickly put a return statements. Okay, we will say that select id name from account. Okay, we'll say that if you try to save this, let's quickly see what will happen. So our Apex class is saying that okay, we have just saved this, but what this particular method will return? Okay, what this method will return? This method will return a single account. Let me prove this. We have to add another action over here. That hopefully we will get that action here. So we have to find category, and under category we have an account. Okay, so this is our account. If you see here, we don't see that, right? So we have to refresh this, add the action. Under the category find account, you will find fetch accounts, right? This is okay, fetch accounts is our label. And if you go to the advanced, it is not returning anything. We will click on done, and let's say click on screen element, and we will say here account information, and here you can have a display text. So here if you see, you have got action, and it's what it says that record single variable account from fetch accounts. What it is returning? A single variable. If you click here and if you search for name, you will see here you have got account name. This is what you have gotten. You click on done, this is going to give you the might give the error. We can add a fault path, can add error screen over here. We have just added this error screen. Okay, because we wanted to test this, what will happen? Either we will get the error or we will get a single account record. We already have seen that it is returning a single account record, but we will still see. You have got whatever the information we are getting, and you get here we got the error. It says that number of result doesn't match the number of interviews that were written. Okay, it is basically returning it says that executed in a single bulk execution request. The reason is it is returning more than one record, but the return type of our Apex class says that it is of our Apex method says that it is a single account. So if you wanted to return multiple accounts, you have to make sure that it is a list of accounts. Now if you save this, okay, it is returning illegal assignment from list to list. So what you have to do is you have to prepare a list of accounts, and then in this list add this whatever the data that you are returning from your Salesforce query. Okay, now you have to get back to your flow, refresh this page in order to get the correct set of data. So here what you will do here, now this screen is not going to work anymore. What you will do is if you try to loop element over here, right, if you try to use a loop element, and here connection variable, because you see here now the loop only works on the list of records, and you see here it is saying that list of records. Now if you say that iterate over account, and for this particular API name you can say that account record, and you click on done, you have got this loop element, right? And then what you have to do is if you try to print the account, each account on a separate screen, you can have a screen over here. You can say that okay, account information, and then use a display text to input the information. Okay, or instead of display text, if you want, you can use a text variable as well. so that you can just populate the name of that account under that variable. And the default value that you will get a single record from current iteration of your loop. And then what you need to display is the name of your account. Just go ahead and display this. Click on done, save it, and then after you can just debug it to see the correct result. And this time you should be able to see the records, the number of records that we are returning via our Apex class. Click on next. You see here the first name is Sombir Soheran. Then we have got Ace Communications. We have got Burlington. So basically we are getting all the accounts records and we are able to fetch those account records. So basically this is how you return list of S objects or any primitive data type that we have talked about. Similarly, if you want to accept some list of parameters, what you can do is you have to create, say, that list of string, okay, a string, and then you have to say list of strings and say that you wanted to say account ID set, okay, or account IDs list. So if you wanted to send the list of records to as an input, you have to accept list of that particular data type that you want. And then if you want to put the filter, you can put the filter wherever you want here. Suppose that you can say that where ID in whatever the list that you have got, and you can just save it. So this time if we pass the parameter, if you pass any param, it says that invalid bind expression. Okay, should be, let's say that list of okay, so basically we are saying list of that's why we are getting here. So we have to say that okay, it will say get 0 because we need list of record, we need list of, we don't need list of okay. So here we have just accepted the list of string parameters. If we want to send some parameter, what we have to do is we have to create some records, okay, sorry, we have to create a variable of type list. So for that we have to, again, I said name, it should be the ID. So first what we will do is we will create a resource. Here we will say that variable. So what we will have is, it is going to be where account IDs. Data type we will select text. It is going to allow multiple values, okay. Click on done. Now before we fetch, we will add an assignment over here. We will say that add account ID to list. And here what variable we have where account IDs. Instead of equals, we will say that add, okay. And then we will add what account ID we have over here, and we will click on done. While making the call to our Apex class, we will click on edit element. This time it says that account ID list you want to include. Yes. What value we can send here is the list variables we can send here. We say that whatever the list we have got, and click on done. Save it. This time what we have done is we have sent the list of records, list of IDs to our Apex class, and here in the Apex class we will see, this time we should be only able to see one single account record because we are sending the IDs. If you click on next, we got this particular, say that all done, okay. So basically this is how your invocable Apex works, invocable method works. There is a lot more on the invocable methods, on not methods, basically on the scenarios that you can try by yourself. So this is it for this video. Thank you for your time, and if you have any scenarios, please feel free to send us via email, which is there in the description. And in the next video we will talk about how to send the email, a rich text email, using our screen flow. Thank you.